Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge, back once again with another YouTube reading guide series. Today is the first of 3 videos walking through the correct reading order of all the comics in the DC Beyond universe by DC Comics. To create this reading guide, I have read the 345 comic issues that comprise the shared Beyond continuity, including the essential spin-offs and tie-ins, and I've used that knowledge to build the internet's most detailed reading map for the DC Beyond universe. So first things first, the DC Beyond universe is much more than just Batman Beyond. It's also much more complicated than just reading a single line of comics, which is something I realized when I started trying to read it all in one sequence. When I began doing so, I learned rather quickly that, as is often the case, there wasn't a single clear, accurate, and comprehensive source for me to use. Yes, there were some Reddit posts and a few other half-finished guides on some popular comic websites, but nothing that was either accurate or had enough detail for my purposes. So, as I always do, I worked out the correct reading order myself. Unlike many websites doing so-called reading orders, I always read every single issue myself so I know that I'm 100% correct, and then I mapped it all out. This was, as all my reading orders always are, purely for myself. That said, as I always do, if I find I learn something or create something interesting while I'm reading comics, I then share it with all of you via some YouTube videos. I was thinking I might make my new strapline for this channel doing the guides no one else can be bothered with. What do you think? Anyway, let's dive into it. So, what exactly is the DC Beyond universe? Well, let's start at the beginning. The DC Beyond universe actually started as a cartoon and not a comic. It started with the animated series of Batman Beyond. Now, Batman Beyond, which was also known as Batman of the Future in some other countries, was originally an American superhero animated television series developed by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. If those names sound familiar, that's because those were the guys who were behind the Batman animated series as well. Now, the Batman Beyond series ran from 1999 to 2001 and included 52 episodes. Just a coincidence, it just happened to be 52 episodes, I know. And that was across 3 seasons and also included 1 direct DVD feature film. The basic premise, and this isn't a spoiler because it's crucial to know and also happens in the very first episode, is that of a teenage Batman in a futuristic Gotham City under the tutelage of an elderly Bruce Wayne. So this new Batman is called Terry McGinnis. He's a cool new bat suit. It's a little bit like the Iron Man suit or maybe the new Spider-Man suit from the MCU. Either way, otherwise it's generally the same idea of Batman that we know and love. But it's through a futuristic filter. It also has a lot of fan service with lots of Easter eggs and hints and foreshadowing of current Batman continuity stuff. Now the show went on to receive critical acclaim and developed a cult following. It explored the darker side of Batman even more than the Batman animated series, which was already awesome, with ideas like substance abuse, teen subcultures, child abuse, and school violence. If you want to own it or watch it, then it's all available on DVD and Blu-ray in various release bundles. There is a little bit more we need to understand about all this, but we'll cover that in the next few videos when it will make more sense within the wider context. For now, we've just discussed enough to just jump right into it. And so as a result, here, ladies and gentlemen, is the DC Beyond universe mapped out volume by volume in the ideal reading order. As always, we are going to start off at the top here, and I am going to talk you through it step by step. So you're probably familiar with this look, bubbles and lines, just kind of talking you through what to read and where everything fits in. So the first one we can see here, I will zoom right in for you here. This one at the top is Batman Beyond Volume 1, which is a 6-issue series written by Hilary Bader, published in 1999. It retells the origin from the cartoon, but it also relies on readers knowing the cartoon quite well. So it's really just fan service. Like it talks about villains and has events, which just rely on you knowing the cartoon, to be honest. There's no overall arc. It's all just standalone issues, and there's no real closure. It doesn't really end with a bang. It's just 6 random issues. It's apparently collected in a trade paperback, although I wasn't able to find that. So let's move down here to this dotted circle, which is Batman Beyond Volume 2, which is also written by Bader and was published from 1999 to 2001. Similarly to the first volume, it consists of Monster of the Week issues instead of a coherent arc. As such, all the issues and villains rely upon readers being familiar with the cartoon. Again, now there's 24 issues in total, and they are not collected anywhere as far as I know, hence the dotted line of the circle. The one thing I would point out to you is that the issues 21 to 22 out of the 24 issues feature Justice League Unlimited and are actually a two-parter. So it's the first DC Beyond introduction of that version of the Justice League, and it's also the only two-parter in this particular volume. Please do note, and I got confused by this too, that the Justice League in the DC Beyond universe is called Justice League Unlimited, not Justice League Beyond, and it's Justice League Unlimited that are here featured in issues 21 and 22. Like I said, there's 24 issues in total. They're not collected anywhere. That's why this is a dotted circle. If you want to buy either of these volumes, either volume 1 or volume 2, Comixology is probably your best bet. The first volume of 6 issues can be found here, and the second volume is all available in single issues, as you can see here. On that note, Comixology is also where you can find the Return of the Joker one-shot. You should read this after the 24th issue of Volume 2. In fact, if we go back to the map here, you will see that's where I put it. And it fits in after Volume 2, but it's not collected in technically as part of Volume 2. It's like a one-shot in and of itself. If we just zoom in a little bit, Return of the Joker is actually quite unusual. Based on the animated movie of the same name, it has a complicated release history on DVD in terms of the movie itself, due to there being two different final edits of the film. I haven't seen the film, but it's well worth tracking down the one-shot issue, which I'm showing you here as on Comixology, as it does have some key revelations that are important for this read-through and that I do not want to spoil. So let's pan out a little bit and let's follow this thread down. What we'll see here is there's actually a 9-year break between the comics, between Return of the Joker and then the next Batman Beyond issues. However, before we get into that, I just want to point out something on the side here. I'm just going to zoom into this red circle. So over here, I'm showing this 2-issue arc from 2009, which was called Final Crisis Superman Beyond. I mention this as it will come up in any Google search you do of DC Beyond, but I just want to highlight it has nothing to do with the DC Beyond universe. The Superman Beyond character that it portrays is nothing to do with the Superman Beyond series we're going to look at in the next video, and in fact has nothing to do with Batman Beyond. Instead, this is part of the Final Crisis story arc, which is a major DC event from 2009. Now, these two Superman Beyond issues are part of this omnibus. And this event as a whole is very hard to follow. However, I personally thought these two issues were kind of cool, in that they're written by Grant Morrison and give us an insight into the DC multiverse through their eyes. I'm putting them on the map here, in a red circle, and way over here, unlinked to anything else, just so that you know it exists, but that they're not part of the actual DC Beyond universe read-through. But if you do put it into Comixology and type in like Beyond or Superman Beyond, this will come up, but don't get confused. Okay, all right, let's go back and let's go back to the main bit of the map here. So the next thing we want to look at on the main thread is this. When the story of Batman Beyond actually continued after Return of the Joker, it was with Batman Beyond Volume 3, which is also called, as you can see, Hush Beyond. Now this was published in 2010. So there is a 9-year gap here. You'll note that it's pretty obvious to see that because it's got a new, much more modern and non-Bruce Timm style of art. This also heralds a much more mature and thoughtful evolution of the character and the entire DC Beyond world, away from simple Monster of the Week episodes that were tie-ins or spin-offs from the weekly cartoon show into its own kind of series and creature. The move from the animated series fan service makes this a long 6-issue arc that is great, fulfilling, has decent closure, and also has some actual character growth for the status quo. Please note that if you're going to read this, it does require some basic knowledge of the earlier story and show, as in the setting, and especially it requires a knowledge of the Return of the Joker one-shot. So although it can be tempting to think, oh, you'll start your reading here as the character reaches a much more mature phase, I would strongly recommend starting right at the beginning. Otherwise, there are going to be some bits that are spoilers or that will just take you a little while to catch up on. So Hush Beyond, if we just scroll down a little bit further, was almost immediately followed by Batman Beyond Volume 4, which is an 8-issue series collected as a trade called Industrial Revolution and published in 2011. Set very soon after Volume 3, this is similarly very strong, with multi-issue arcs and a decent cameo from the Justice League for a change, and again an actual change to the status quo of the Beyond universe at the end. Again, it does require some basic knowledge of the earlier story and show in terms of the setting and the previous antagonist. Now, quick note here, despite being published in 2011, which is the same year as Flashpoint and the start of the New 52, this has nothing to do with that. When Flashpoint and the New 52 is relevant, I will discuss it with you, but we'll have more on that in the third video. In fact, on that note, this is probably as good a time as any to finish for today. So far today, we have covered the upper part of this map before we get to these funny yellow and blue boxes that we will talk about next time. Hopefully this is being useful for you, and as always, this map is available on my website for you to download free of charge. If you want to download it or print it out to follow along, please do so. It covers all 345 issues. As always, please like, comment and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter, where I tend to post a 1-tweet daily review whatever I read that day. And given that I read on average around half a dozen comic issues a day, it's a good way to see what I'm up to and get an idea for what future videos are in the pipeline. If you want to support this channel, it's easy. Just head over to Amazon and pick up the first volume of my prose superhero novel, No Gods or Kings. It will cost you less than $1 and is free if you have Kindle Unlimited. A free excerpt of the first book can be found on the same website as this reading guide, which is nogodsorkings.com, and the link to that is in the description below. So until next time, everyone, stay classy.